Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an epic journey through time, the evolution of warfare. From the primal clashes of our prehistoric ancestors to the high-tech battles of today, warfare has shaped human history, societies, and technologies. It's a story of innovation born from necessity, strategy forged in the fires of conflict, and a relentless pursuit of dominance. As we explore this timeline, we'll see how simple tools gave way to devastating weapons, how tactics adapted to terrains and technologies, and how wars have grown from local skirmishes to global cataclysms. Buckle up. This is the story of humanity's most destructive art form. Warfare didn't begin with grand armies or sophisticated plans. Its roots lie deep in our evolutionary past, where survival meant defending resources against rivals. But as civilizations rose, so did the scale and complexity of conflict. Let's start at the beginning. Prehistoric warfare, the dawn of human conflict, 500,000 BC, 3000 BC. Imagine a world without nations, without borders, just bands of hunter-gatherers roaming vast landscapes. Yet, even here, warfare emerged. Anthropologists debate its origins, but evidence points to organized violence as early as 500,000 years ago. Fossil records show injuries from clubs and spears, suggesting raids for food, territory, or mates. In prehistoric times, fighting was brutal and personal, using rudimentary weapons like stones, wooden clubs, and early spears dating back to 35,000 BC. Arrows, maces, and slings appeared around 12,000 BC, allowing for ranged attacks that changed the dynamics of ambushes. Lawrence H. Healy's research reveals that 87% of tribal societies engaged in war more than once a year, with some in constant conflict. Casualty rates could reach 60% in close-quarters battles, far higher than modern wars. The shift to agriculture around 10,000 BC intensified this. Settled villages became targets during famines, leading to the first professional warriors in advanced farming societies. Archaeological sites like Cemetery 117 in Egypt, dating back 7,000 years, show bodies riddled with arrowheads, clear signs of mass battles. These early conflicts were driven by resource scarcity, population pressures, and ecological changes, such as droughts or the extinction of large game. Warfare wasn't just about killing. It was about prestige, slaves, and land. In regions like Anatolia by 5,500 BC, Central Europe by 4,300 BC, and northern China by 2,500 BC, wars became more systematic. Early humans, possibly even displacing Neanderthals through small-scale raids, learned that collective action and surprise were key to victory. This era laid the groundwork. Warfare as a tool for survival and expansion. As societies grew more complex, so did their methods. By the end of prehistory, chariots emerged as shock weapons, hinting at the organized armies to come. Ancient warfare, empires and innovations, 3000 BC, 500 AD. With the rise of civilizations, warfare transformed into a structured endeavor. In Mesopotamia and Egypt, city-states clashed using chariots, spears, and early formations. The Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians, and Persians built empires through conquest, introducing cavalry and siege tactics. The Egyptians under pharaohs like Ramses II waged wars for glory and resources, their chariots thundering across battlefields. In India, the Battle of the Ten Kings and epics like the Mahabharata described massive formations and even esoteric weapons. Alexander the Great's invasion in 326 BC, defeating King Porus at the Hydaspes River, showcased Macedonian phalanxes, tightly packed infantry with long spears, against war elephants. Chandragupta Maurya later unified northern India, repelling Macedonian remnants. China's Warring States period, 475 to 221 BC, was a hotbed of innovation. Philosophers like Sun Tzu in The Art of War emphasized deception, terrain, and intelligence, while Mozi developed siege engines. Qin Shi Huang's unification in 221 BC relied on crossbows and disciplined armies. Greece brought the phalanx to prominence. Hoplites, armed with shields and spears, formed an impenetrable wall, as seen in Sparta's stand at Thermopylae against Persia in 480 BC. Athens' naval victory at Salamis highlighted sea power. Rome, however, perfected flexibility. Their legions, organized into maniples, adapted to any terrain. The Punic Wars, 264 to 146 BC, against Carthage featured Hannibal's daring alpine crossing with elephants and Roman naval innovations like the Corvus boarding device. Julius Caesar's campaigns, including crossing the Rubicon, demonstrated psychological tactics and rapid maneuvers. This era saw infantry dominate, with heavy formations countering chariots. Battles were decided by discipline, positioning, and logistics. Fortifications rose, and biological warfare appeared. Poisoned wells and diseased bodies hurled over walls. By 500 AD, the fall of Rome marked a shift, but ancient lessons and strategy endured. Medieval warfare, knights, castles, and conquest, 500 AD, 1500 AD. The medieval period, often romanticized as the age of chivalry, was a time of feudalism and fragmented power. The introduction of stirrups revolutionized cavalry, allowing knights in heavy armor to charge with lances. Europe saw castles dot the landscape, serving as defensive strongholds for lords. The Islamic Arab Empire expanded rapidly under leaders like Khalid ibn al-Walid, conquering the Middle East, North Africa, and parts of Europe. Their advance was halted at the Battle of Tours in 732 AD by Charles Martel. In China, the Tang and Song dynasties innovated with gunpowder and Greek fire-like incendiaries, but fell to Mongol invasions. Genghis Khan's hordes, starting in 1206, used mobility, archery from horseback, and psychological terror to build the largest contiguous empire, defeating the Song by 1279. In Europe, the Battle of Hastings in 1066 showcased Norman tactics. William the Conqueror used feigned retreats to lure English forces into disarray. The Crusades, 1095 to 1291, pitted Christian knights against Muslim armies, with sieges and long supply lines testing endurance. Infantry tactics evolved to counter cavalry, as seen in English longbowmen at Agincourt in 1415, where arrows decimated French knights. Driving forces included technology, like crossbows, culture, and economics. Feudal lords raised armies from vassals, while mercenaries filled gaps. Wars were frequent but limited, focused on sieges rather than open battles. The Black Death in the 14th century disrupted armies, highlighting how disease could be as deadly as swords. As the Middle Ages waned, a new invention would shatter the old order. Gunpowder and early modern warfare, 1500 AD, 1800 AD. Gunpowder, invented in China's Song dynasty around 900 AD, spread to the Ottomans, Safavids, Mughals, and Europeans by the 15th century. It ended knightly dominance. Cannons pierced armor, muskets allowed massed fire. The Italian Wars, 1494 to 1559, saw Europeans adopt these, leading to professional standing armies, field artillery, and bayonets. Fortifications evolved into star-shaped bastions to deflect cannonballs. The 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, was a bloodbath, with musketeers and pike formations. Tactics emphasized logistics and discipline. Battles like Breitenfeld showed combined arms. The Peace of Westphalia in 1648 ushered in cabinet screech, limited wars by monarchs using mercenaries. Colonial expansion amplified conflicts. Europeans clashed with indigenous peoples, sparking resistance and slave raids. In the Americas, displaced tribes fought over new weapons and lands. Biological warfare persisted, with smallpox blankets used against Native Americans. Naval warfare advanced with ships of the line, as in the Spanish Armada's defeat in 1588. This era bridged medieval melee to modern firepower. Industrial and Napoleonic warfare, 1800 AD, 1914 AD. The Industrial Revolution mechanized war. Napoleon Bonaparte's conscript armies during the Napoleonic Wars, 1799 to 1815, introduced mass mobilization, with over 1 million Frenchmen under arms. Tactics like the column attack and artillery barges won at Austerlitz, but failed in Russia due to logistics. Conscription spread, as in Prussia's victory at Zadova in 1866. Total war emerged in the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, with Sherman's march to the sea destroying resources to break enemy will. Railroads and telegraphs enabled rapid movement and communication. Technologies like rifled guns, ironclads, e.g., Monitor versus Merrimack, and machine guns increased lethality. Colonial wars, like the Opium Wars in China, showcased European superiority through steamships and repeating rifles. By 1914, nations were primed for catastrophe. World wars, total devastation, 1914 to 1945. World War I, 1914 to 1918. Triggered by Archduke Franz Ferdinand's assassination, it devolved into trench warfare on the Western Front. Machine guns, artillery, and poison gas like chlorine caused millions of deaths. Tanks and airplanes debuted, breaking stalemates at battles like the Somme. The U.S. entry in 1917 shifted momentum. The war ended with the Treaty of Versailles, but sowed seeds for more conflict. World War II, 1939 to 1945, was even deadlier. Germany's blitzkrieg, fast, coordinated attacks with tanks, infantry, and air support, conquered Poland and France. The Dunkirk evacuation saved Allied forces, while the Battle of Britain showcased air power. Japan's Pearl Harbor attack in 1941 drew the U.S. in. Allied invasions like D-Day in 1944 and island hopping in the Pacific turned the tide. The Holocaust and atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki highlighted war's horrors. Nuclear weapons changed everything, introducing mutually assured destruction. Over 70 million died, reshaping the world. Cold War and modern warfare, 1945 AD, present. The Cold War, 1947 to 1991, was a tense standoff between the US and USSR. Proxy wars in Korea, 1950 to 1953, and Vietnam, 1955 to 1975, featured guerrilla tactics against conventional forces. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 nearly went nuclear. Technologies exploded: satellites, ICBMs, nuclear submarines. Treaties like the 1925 Geneva Protocol and 1972 Biological Weapons Convention aimed to limit horrors, but violations persisted. Post-Cold War, conflicts turned asymmetric. Guerrillas and terrorists used IEDs and suicide bombings, as in Afghanistan and Iraq. Cyber warfare emerged, hacking infrastructure without boots on the ground. Drones and precision strikes define modern ops, minimizing casualties but raising ethical questions. In 2025, AI, hypersonic missiles, and space weapons loom. Warfare is hybrid, conventional, cyber, and info ops. Leaders like David Petraeus note the shift to high-tech, low-manpower strategies. The future of warfare, horizons unknown, beyond 2025. Looking ahead, warfare may involve autonomous drones, bioengineered weapons, and AI commanders. Climate change could spark resource wars, while space becomes a battlefield. Strategies will blend human ingenuity with machine precision, but the core remains: adapt or perish. Conclusion: lessons from the battlefield. From clubs to nukes, warfare's evolution reflects humanity's progress and peril. It's driven innovation in medicine, transport, and tech, but at immense cost. As we stand in 2025, remember, understanding history might help us forge peace. Thank you for joining this exploration. What battles shape our future? Only time will tell.